What's going on, and welcome back to CZ Adventure. In today's episode, we picked up a 5x8 trailer and we have the plans to turn it into a tiny cabin. We're headed out to go pick up a trailer. I found a little 5x8 trailer on Facebook Marketplace, and I'm thinking it would make a really cool tiny house slash teardrop style camping trailer. I'm not entirely sure the direction I'll go with it. So right behind me is the 5x8 trailer that we're going to be building this little tiny camper on. And let me tell you, this thing is in rough shape. It's got this metal platform deck on it, and I'm going to probably start this build off by removing as much as I can off of this because it's going to need a awesome paint job. Well, I got this rusty platform off, and as to be expected, there's quite a bit of surface rust. Extremely heavy anyways, and it was held on with like 3 screws, a couple of tiny little 1/4-inch screws, and then some really dodgy welds. What we need to do now is sand this thing up and get it ready for some paint, and then once we paint it, we'll start building our subfloor, insulate that subfloor, then we'll build our walls, and well, here goes a camper build. So here is the trailer, and the paint has dried. It's a little bit dusty because I've been cutting a lot of wood in here, but it came out really nice, and I think it's going to protect it from further rust. So that's an important step, to just break the trailer down and give it a good paint job. Secondly, we created the first frame. This is going to be the subfloor as well as the base for our camper here. And to go along with that, we cut out some pieces of OSB board here, and we applied a nice layer of some Flex Seal. We have 3-inch screws holding this thing together, as well as some wood glue. And once we figure out the optimal positioning, we'll be putting in some metal supports as well. And it's a really great base to start building our camper on. Now I can't tell if I'm going to call this a camper, square drop, a tiny house. I think I'm going to build it like a house, so it'd probably be most appropriate to call it a tiny house. And this is our deck, just thrown right on top. And as you can see, it's going to be pretty solid. It's another day working on the trailer, and today we're going to try to, with the limited amount of time that we have, bolt this thing down to the trailer, secure it so we could actually put the top on, insulate this thing, and start moving to the walls. So the way that I am fastening the subfloor down to the trailer is with these bolts I have here. These are 6-inch 5/16 bolts with a nylon stainless steel locking nut. And essentially, I'm drilling through the trailer on the bottom, upwards, and then wherever that hole comes through the subfloor, I'm putting a 15-inch support in, and then drilling a hole through that, dropping that bolt through the support, and then screwing the support in, and then tightening the lock nut down. And this thing is gonna be so solid. It's already one piece, which is great. I have the trailer completely framed out now. I think this is how I'm gonna leave it. I threw a piece of test board on top of it and it's super sturdy. We went ahead and put some spray foam within all the cracks and crevices so no water could penetrate the trailer. And then there was a couple of pesky large brackets. This one was a just large gaping hole, so I cut a block to fit in there and then spray foamed it. And I have spray foam blocking off all these brackets here. And I've went ahead and completely spray foamed these guys into here. We have another mounting point going through this back bracket. To insulate the floor of my tiny cabin, I used fiberglass insulation. Now typically you'd probably use some closed cell foam or something along the lines of that, but fiberglass is, well, cheap. So that's why we used it for this tiny camper. We ran out of fiberglass insulation just using one roll, and we ended up spray foaming some of it and also using some leftover foam insulation from one of the van builds. We have the deck all cut out, ready to close off the subfloor. This thing is gonna be super sturdy with a nice solid base that we've given it. So we have to just fasten this thing down and we're ready to start building the walls. Gonna use some liquid nails on the supports of the subfloor. And we're gonna place our boards back on and drive some screws in. Ran out of liquid nails, but used some wood glue. And as you can see, I had one little pesky spot where I had put foam insulation. I'm using things that I've used in my previous vans, like this liquid nails. That's the reason why I ran out of it, is because it's old. It's left over from the van build. Subfloor is all mounted up now. It's super solid. No creaks. The wood glue and liquid nails adhered these boards to the subfloor super quickly, and then I just put a bunch of screws all along the outsides to seal it up, as well as down the seam in between the two boards. Now it's time to start framing out the walls, and what I did was cut a 2x4 perfectly in half that I'm going to be using 2 full-length 2x4s. So here we have an 8-foot wall essentially that is about 46 inches tall. Trailer is definitely taking shape with these walls mocked up. I have the external frames essentially for these guys. They're just clamped down right now. They're not fastened down yet, but we gotta kind of think of where we want to put a window before we put the middle framing inside of these walls. It's actually gonna be a lot bigger than it was seeming at first. There's something so incredibly inspiring as well as satisfying to see one of the ideas that was just kind of bouncing around in your head turn into reality and actually become a project. No blueprints, just creativity. I added a little bit of an angle to the top of our tiny house. And this is so when we're going down the highway, the vehicle's gonna be in the front there. There's a little bit of aerodynamics on the trailer. It's not just a big box. This is going to allow any rain or snow to kind of just trickle off the side. So we wanted this nice slope and we kept it pretty simple. I just went ahead and threw some cedar up there to kind of see what it would feel like inside and kind of give us a little bit of a ceiling here, and it looks pretty awesome. Originally the walls were just more of a square shape, and then we added this nice slope along the top. We're gonna have cedar come up from the very base of the subfloor all the way to the top, and I can't decide if I want to keep a cedar roof or maybe do some type of corrugated metal roofing on the top. Haven't quite decided yet. We picked up a few more things, including some house wrap. This is going to be water resistant, which is going to allow us to better seal off the camper, as well as this deck waterproofing. It's a clear wood sealer, and it repels water, which is going to be super helpful for sealing that cedar up. We went ahead and got 2 full gallons of it, and that'll definitely seal up the wood plenty. This project is taking up actually quite a bit of material, a lot more than the camper van builds, just because I have to create the actual structure. And my garage is an absolute mess, but I'm having a lot of fun creating and designing this. So the framing on the tiny house is complete. Threw some bracing under the window, put another bracing in the roof here, a couple more here, finished the entire door frame. Went with a 3-foot wide opening, so it's going to be a massive door, which will be nice. It'll provide some extra space, make it feel a little bit larger with the door open. And up on the roof, we threw a couple of cross members in and put the scrap plywood that we had from the subfloor. So now it's time to wrap this entire frame, this structure, with this house wrap. That house wrap is going to completely waterproof our tiny house, which makes me feel a lot better. We don't want to go through all this work and then have it just rot apart here in the Pacific Northwest. So to do that, what you need to do is grab yourself a roll. This is 300 square feet of house wrap, and just simply do this. If you've made it to the end of this video, I just want to say thank you. I'm having a ton of fun building this camper so far, and really looking forward to seeing how it's going to turn out. This past year has been incredible, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for watching, and as always, we will see you in the next one.